going to be a bumpy night.
What's going on, everybody? This is Laugh Bunker Podcast, episode number 6, I believe. 6. It is, what's today's date?
22nd.
June 22nd. It's a Monday evening. How's everything going, Paul? What's going on with you?
Everything's good, man. Just living the dream.
Yeah.
And no, it was a hard week at work, and it's just the transition has been really hard, and had a serious situation. Going to probably change some of my training aspects, I would say again. And so been looking for a new gym, and also just trying to get ready to go to Yosemite. And I had a great Father's Day with the family. Happy Father's Day to you. I hope you had a good time. And we watched Young Frankenstein, so we had a great time. And my wife is teaching summer school. My daughter is teaching summer school. So they're working, they said, harder than they ever have to prepare the classes. Yeah. And it was nice to be able to just sit. In fact, I think on Sundays, I'm tired from work, man. So I think I'll just go ahead and take off the day from exercise and hang with the family. I think my wife's birthday is next week. Our birthdays are only a few weeks apart, and we're going to head down to the beach, I think, for the day and just get some food and hang out. So it'll be nice. What about you? What did you do?
Lately, this past week, we've been, which I haven't really gotten to tell you, but we've been under quarantine here for the past week. My wife's sister got COVID. She came over
and I almost came last Friday. Oh my God!
I know.
I
was going to tell you because I know you're thinking of stopping by, but I was waiting for you to text me.
Wait. So your
my wife's sister got it.
Okay. So and is she okay, or what's going on?
She's fine. She went to Vegas.
Oh man.
There, her husband. I don't know what they went down there for. I don't think it was just for vacation. They went down there for something. Then they ended up catching it, came back. All she had really was like a little bit of a runny nose and a little itch in her throat, and that was really it.
By any of your parents or anything, or?
Yeah, everybody.
So it's not,
She got it. Yeah, she started feeling symptoms on a Tuesday. And then it was her son's graduation. My wife went with them. That's where I think my wife got exposed to it. And then we had a Saturday birthday party at the house. And then I think that Monday she actually went to go get tested just because I think a coworker of hers said, "Hey, why don't you should go check because you were feeling sick. You said last week. Why don't you just go and see what happened?" So she went to go get checked, and lo and behold, she tested positive, and her husband tested positive. And
holy cow!
They're fairly. I mean, they're not the healthiest people in the world, but
Oh, were they by you?
Yeah.
Were they?
Yeah.
Oh.
I probably have it too. I mean, my wife got exposed. And. I haven't been tested yet, but I'm not feeling anything. No one here at the house is really feeling anything.
Stay on it.
But her sister, who actually did test positive, and her husband tested positive, they really had no symptoms. They were actually pretty fine. So,
I mean,
that was my week.
I think it was on Sunday that there was 2,050 new cases, and almost 50 people died on Sunday. So, and I just saw that now some baseball teams are running. The Clemson football team has 20. I mean, this, I don't know. And everywhere I go, no one's got masks. People are just breathing like at the hotel. I'm like, dude, get back.
And I could believe, with all the protests going on and everything, you knew, and things opening up, things were going to spike up a little bit,
It's like we said, just can't play. Well, anyway, I hope everything's good. So thank goodness I didn't come over. Why wouldn't you have called me? Hopefully, but how many days are you inside for?
I think by the end of the week we're good because we last saw her. Was it last weekend? So probably by not this past weekend, but the weekend before. So by this weekend, it'll be 2 weeks, and then over 2 weeks since probably she felt any kind of symptoms. So almost 3 weeks had passed by the end of this week. So it should be fun.
Well,
then you could come over. Then I can could cough on you and everything like that.
So. Good. But anyway, that's I like I said, I don't really fear for myself.
Yeah, I don't
but because of my wife's lungs, I have to be extra careful.
Yeah.
And
really, for other people, I mean, for me, I think at this point, a lot of time has passed. We've gotten to get a lot of more information, even though it's mixed messages and all that. But I'm not as worried as I was like maybe the first month. Where when whole prisons or whole baseball teams or football teams or like a whole house party of 100 people get sick and no one goes to the morgue. I think my odds are. Okay.
I guess then the virus is letting us down. But anyway,
I think it's easily transferable, and I think it's bad for people that have health issues.
Health issues, and really, that percentage of people over 6 years old is not. I mean, when you look at who gets it and the mortality rate, that is something to be fearful of.
Yeah.
And the truth is, and that's the problem. It's like the drunk driver. You don't know who you're going to hit. And it could be someone who's not going to have it or whatever. Yeah. But also, I mean, it's. I mean, everything has been crazy, but it is what it is. And so, having a good time, and work's been crazy. You're so blessed to not work. I'm not kidding you, man. If I had known about welfare and this and the unemployment, man, and the stimulus. I'm going to tell you what, I would have been on board years ago. But no, work's just been. I mean, we're at over almost 50%, and they got one person, a girl, answering every phone call, doing everything, running stuff, doing this, and it's just so. It's the management hotel industry is a different industry than owning, and then you put in two other entities. What it originally was and whoever bought them, and then you have the management, and then you've got people owning the property. It's just it's all about the buck. But it's been truth is it is what it is, and I have figured out to make it worth. I can't switch my schedule on weekends. This is like trying to not sleep. I mean, the crazy thing is on Sunday I slept from like 6 to noon, and then I went to bed and slept 9 to 9. But I'm walking about 6 to 7 miles every night on top of my exercise.
That's good. You said you lost like 10 pounds, right?
Well, I want, yeah.
And you changed up your diet, huh?
Diet, no booze.
I haven't been that strict on my diet. I think for me, I've been really strict on the carbs and the low sugar. Past couple of weeks, I've kind of been like a little loose with it. It's a lot of food around the house. It's hard to avoid.
The reason for me is that as I'm going to Yosemite in a month.
Yeah.
I'm try to do 2 intense things, and then for the fall to do this hike I want to do, which ties into the end of the book.
Yeah, which you showed me. You showed me the rope or the ladder.
Yes, the cable.
Which I'll put in the podcast right now. But like you showed me the cable. I thought that was pretty cool. That was really interesting. Like
it's the cable and half. It's funny. I got into climbing back in Chicago in the 80s and went to Everest and been to South America and Mexico and the Marine and I never went to Yosemite. It's 5 hours away. And people like, right. Are you stupid? I said, well, yeah, I'm obviously stupid. That's not the point. The point is, so I'm going. I want to do the cable route, but I want to do it at night. Because I want to be on top at 5 a.m. when the sun comes up over Yosemite, because that's going to be badass. And then I'm going to hike with my wife to the base of El Cap to where all the climbers are. Okay. And then if I have extra time, I might do this cloud rest, which is another point to overlook. But have you been to Yosemite?
I have. I've been quite a few times. I'd say 3. But not since I was like a teenager, young kid. Yeah.
When you first went there, when you walked in, was the impression awesome or?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, like No, friends of mine that I grew up with, they went every year, every summer. Their dad would just take them with their mom and dad, and they just kind of run wild and up in Yosemite. So I went a few times with them. I thought it was great. You know, we went into this area where they have cabins, and then it wasn't a cabin. It's kind of like a brick. It's like a structure with like a couple of cots in it. That's pretty much. It wasn't like hard, camping, but it was.
Oh no,
cool.
I tried to get those, by the
Yeah.
way, but
Those
they're
are
reserved
okay.
a year in advance. And
If a bear wanted to come in, he could easily come in because there's nothing blocking him at all. There's no closure. There's no you have a curtain. That's about it. If you woke up with a bear in your face, that's probably likely to happen.
well,
That's what I didn't
but
like. um,
I think
I
that
remember my first memories though was Half Dome. There's a lake right there from Half Dome that runs along Half Dome. That was right near the campsite, which I thought was great. The water's super cold. There was a waterfall to the left of Half Dome, and then to the right, you could see Half Dome, and it was great. It was like really nice, really pretty. Um, and I just I remember just going around the trails, and I was a young teenager kid, and I just remember all like you're just girl crazy, and there's a lot of girls around there like all over.
no,
the
we went camping a lot as growing up too, in
Yeah.
Michigan, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. No spectacular mountains, but I remember those years, the change from my bike to girls. Yes, I
Yeah, yeah.
totally.
Just
But
took everything.
so gonna do that, and then other than that, that's about it. But yeah,
So,
it's for me to be able to do that kind of training and whatever. I have to. I just can't take. Everything has to move on because at my age, my recovery is not what it was.
yeah, yeah,
I can push it without a hike today. It was like hot and humid. It was
yeah.
brutal in the sun. But anyway, so yeah, doing that, and other than that, just been spending more time watching documentaries
Okay.
on the national parks. So kind of, I watched Ken Burns this week.
Yeah,
The two-part, very spectacular. John Muir said, his thoughtfulness and even for Teddy Roosevelt, who they just tore a statue down at
Yeah.
New York
At first
Museum.
I was like, why are they tearing that statue down? Well, come on, that's Teddy. And then you see it's kind of like he's on a horse, and you got like a Native American and an African slave on the other side. I'm like, all right, okay.
Well, but those were in connotations to his hunt. One was not really slaves. That was Africa. So in
Yeah.
other words, he hunted big game in Africa, and that was part of his heritage.
Yeah,
But it's interesting. People
I
said
get,
why,
yeah. And at first I understood the background of the statue, and I'm totally even okay if they even just wanted to leave it there because for the most part, most of us I've been to that museum too, and I don't even remember it. Um, people looking at it that don't know the history of that statue, I could see why they would be upset about it. I don't know.
Well, I don't. I actually don't know the relief of the statue. I was just. It was in reference to him, working with Muir. Really, you wouldn't have been to Yosemite if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
I guess
something
that comes to where do we cut the line? Like if pretty much we could honestly say that every single president has done something, at least something once that was awesome, and yet it's overshadowed by other things.
But people want to point out the negatives, but then they also got to remember the time period and how the world was at that time, and it's like.
Well, and the truth is, if anyone should be up screaming right now, it would be the Native Americans because we have all shit on them by just continually to take this. This was their place, man. This was it. You live here for 50 years, man. Well, guess what? You pretty much shit on everybody, and
they're still not in the best shape. Even though they have their sovereign land, and then they have their casinos and most of those areas and those communities are
one of the most majestic societies on earth, man. You're talking about on America's just like what we had in South America. These are the regal people, majestic, and their livelihoods were were destroyed by us.
Destroyed. Yeah. And those communities still are riddled with drugs, alcohol, and they're poor. Yeah, they're a lot of poor communities.
I worked with the guy in Chicago on the roof, in fact.
Yeah.
And he came and he was what was he? He was this whoever ran the planes. I forget the name of the Indian. It's wrong for me not to say this, but he had come, and both his parents were killed. And so he grows in an Indian orphanage and was adopted by people in Illinois. And he went to the church that we went to, and we worked for a roofing company.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was so awesome because we had such incredible conversations. And I remember one time there was about I don't know if it was the Washington Redskins or there was an insignia, and I asked him what the problem with that was, and he said, "Well, can you imagine if it was the drunken, Catholics?" And I said, "Well, I would find that funny," but he really made me realize. And finally, I told him, I said, "You realize that every single white kid in America grows up thinking that you guys are the badass. You're the ninjas. You guys are the badass of everybody. Nobody wanted to be the cowboys growing up. We all wanted to be the Indians." And they're just, and he was such a cool guy. His name was Perry, in fact.
Yeah.
And it was just great because I had a chance to actually be friends with someone who could tell me what was going on from the youth, And
do you think if the name of instead of the Redskins, they were able to keep the logo? Let's say they kept the logo, but they changed it to for a different name, like this. I don't know. Throw one out there, like the Natives, or something like that.
You know what? During this time,
I think that'll be fine. I don't think it's a symbol. I think it's just like a all around thing. What do you think?
We live in a different world, but also the Indians or the Native Americans. I remember when I was a kid. Yeah. My mom gave me this thing, and it said, "You can't judge a man unless you walk a mile in his moccasins." So therefore, that goes through everything in life. So if it offends them, who am I to say? Yeah. What do I know? I'm not Native American. Just I had a friend, but I didn't walk in their shoes. Yeah. I don't know. No, I mean, historically, I'm pretty intelligent and well read, and I do know what happened.
No, I'm wondering if they're more offended by the symbol or the name, both. If they were to change the name, would actually having that symbol, because it is a badass symbol, and you are right about how kids grow up wanting to be the Indians more so than the Cowboys.
Because cowboys look like idiots.
Yeah, and and I get the impression. Yeah, no, I get it all, but it's. I'm wondering how you can. Like if an NFL were like, okay, we're gonna maybe not change the team completely. We'll keep the logo, but we'll change the name, and let them choose the name. I'm wondering.
You know what? It's. I put it on the same table. They have to make that decision. I'm not to make that decision. It's like, people talk about like gun control. Well, why don't you round up the best hunters in the world and say, this is the minimum we need to do the job? And then that seems like a pretty, like, we don't know when, but it is true that,
but what's sad is that they haven't really made that decision yet. That conversation is still going on. It's like, you could easily just, if you sit down with tribal leaders, I would think, and your NFL, people and lawyers and whatever, and you kind of come up with some agreement. We'll keep the logo.
Well, you're looking at history too and everything. So it's what it is. It's like this. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I do know that this group of people has been trashed, and this is their country, and everybody who's here is on their country and should thank them. But so if
they still don't get they don't get the attention they deserve. Yeah.
This is their country, and you know what? If it at this point, I'm a person, man. If it bothers them, then let's change it. Why are we stringing this out? It's like stupid. I understand tradition.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we go ahead and get rid of the tradition. We just put that in a hall or museum where it's part of history. Just like these monuments should not be torn down, they should be moved into historical things saying this is bad, this is bad, this is
Put
bad.
them in a museum. Just take them down, put them in a museum, and just lay out and explain the information. Like,
you can't whitewash it like Germany was after World War II.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So because of it. But anyway, that being said, thank you, Teddy, even though you were rotten or whatever. Thank you for the national parks, because I got to tell you, I hiked today, and for me to be able to go in the outdoors is the biggest blessing. You know, there's a church called Unitarian where they believe they don't need buildings; they just need to set in nature. But for me to go up there, and it's funny, I went up today and I sat down by the stream on these big rocks in this little cavern. I kind of go off the trail. It was just very peaceful, and it was a great time. So that being said, because of Yosemite, I've been watching climbing, national parks. I watched this one called Valley Uprising, which is about the history in Yosemite. You know, the history of U.S. climbing started in Stony Point over there in the valley by Chaps. Yeah, that's where Royal Robbins and Yvon Chouinard is the one who started Patagonia, the big clothing company.
The clothing company, yeah.
And Jim Bridwell and everything. It's a great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you about Patagonia clothing.
Yeah.
They have the reason they're incredible is that you can turn that item in 10 years after you get it, and you get full price.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is everything. And I met did I ever tell you about
if you get a vest from Walmart, it's not going to last you 5 days compared to like a Patagonia.
Hey, I got
5 weeks.
I get some stuff. My down jacket is from the 90s.
Yeah.
It's still incredible. So anyway, it's the history. Oh, probably $350 because it's $650 fill. Yeah. It's Marmot, very good stuff. But anyway, it's funny because when we were climbing, we were in Ecuador one time, and we were coming down from Cotopaxi, and that's a second tallest volcano in Ecuador. It's over 19,000 feet. It's all glaciers and ropes and whatever. And to get to the mountain, you have to hire some Jeep guy from Quito to bring you up there and back. No, Riobamba, sorry. To meet you go up and back. And so we were waiting for our pickup. And we had even been on the mountain in a snowstorm for a couple days. But we came down, and this guy came over to us and said, "Hey, man, can I pay you to get on your ride?" And we said, no, well, come on, whatever. So we're sitting there, and the guy out of the blue says, "Hey, man, what do you think about Patagonia?" And we said, "Oh, man, why?" I said, "This stuff's great, man." I said, one time I wore underwear for 6 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever, and then I didn't like them, so I sent them back, and I got my full refund. And the guy just started laughing and laughing. And my friend Dave, who I was with, said, "What's so funny, man?" And the guy says, I'm the national sales rep for Patagonia."
Oh, really?
He goes, "We make that shit for nothing." We make this shit for nothing, and people love us. He goes, "I can't spend $1 billion in advertising for your enthusiasm. Just what you told me. You can't buy that."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what Coca-Cola has. You know what I mean? That kind of expression. So anyway,
did you keep in touch with the medal?
No. We just met him the one time. Just off. Was it back in the 90s in the climbing years. And so anyway, I watched Valley Uprising, but the manipulation of the photography is worth watching, and the music is some of the great classic music of the 70s. Yeah. And the way the manipulation of the photos kind of reminds me of Ken Burns, the way he does baseball and the Civil War. And I mean, he's done everything. The guy is phenomenal. Yeah. I highly recommend Valley Uprising. And it starts in the 50s with Royal Robbins, Chouinard, but then it moves all the way up to Alex Honnold, who free soloed El Capitan a couple of years ago, and the documentary of his climb won the Oscar.
That was a really interesting movie. I love that movie. The guy is very interesting. His hands are like super big, and he's like really skinny. Really, he's got like this like. I think when they do studies on him, where he doesn't have that fear sensory in his head, he just doesn't have that like.
He seems a spectrum, kind of.
A little bit on the spectrum,
and, like a genius kind of guy. But and in that movie,
beautiful mind type characters.
Yes, exactly. In that movie, without Ed Harris chasing him, of course. But in that film, there's a guy, this Tommy Collar, who helps him climb. And he did his own movie called The Dawn Wall, where they lived they were on the mountain for like 6 weeks on the wall, moving up. And also, him and his ex-wife were captured in Afghanistan climbing. This is a true story. And they had to kill the Taliban guy, push him off the mountain to escape. So it's such a tight world that it's all connected. But all these rock climbers, they all have the same, not crazy, but this immense. I mean, you have to be able to block off. I don't know. I never was a good rock climber. I was too muscular from lifting. But these people don't have a fear of heights, and I climbed with people who it didn't bother them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
the Hulk does pretty good at climbing walls, though. I know.
It's definitely worth watching. So those two, that was my at-home viewing this week. Okay. What about you?
I caught up on some like a couple of Mel Brooks, Robin Hood Men in Tights. I watched
Cary Elwes.
Yeah, which that whole movie.
He went from the Princess Bride to that Saw. Kind of like the first. And wasn't he on a TV show too, right? Yeah, wasn't he a doctor on a TV show?
Yeah, he's on Stranger Things right now.
But wasn't he on House?
Was he on House? I don't remember if he was on House.
All those doctor shows run together.
Yeah, I know. He's great in that.
And then they get better, it's whatever.
Yeah. He's great in that movie. So I watched that movie. We'll get to some Mel Brooks in a little bit. I watched that movie. I watched. You know what series I would recommend you watch, and it's free right now, like pretty much on all platforms, is the Watchmen series.
Really?
Yes. And I think episode 1 you're going to get into it. And have you seen the movie? Okay.
I'm not. I
know you're not a comic book.
No, it's not that. It's the tights. I just.
Well,
because I have a phobia to yoga pants. Because I saw a pair explode one time, and it was devastating. So, okay, is it on Netflix?
Okay, so Watchmen to me is probably one of the best comic book movies ever, and it has more of like it's got this classic old school, super like legit superhero take where they have like authentic costumes and everything, and their take on the superhero culture, and it's like. And it's set in like an alternate universe to where like Nixon. It's like the movie is set in like the 70s.
Okay, I don't know anything about it. So
like Nixon's on his third term.
We
won Vietnam. Like
oh my gosh.
So you got to watch the movie. I actually have the graphic novel in my book.
Okay, so the movie.
The movie's great. I highly recommend the movie.
Okay, but you said the TV show. Does the TV show mimic the movie?
The TV show takes place in like current times, like 2020, 2019, 2020, but it's different. It's an alternate kind of reality, like if certain historical moments went the other way type of thing. So you got to watch the show. It's great. It's got more of a racial undertone, which is very prevalent right now. This was a 2019 season that this came out. But I finally got around to giving it a shot. It's not that I was opposed to it. I just wasn't. The movie's so good. I didn't know how the series was.
But it went.
Regina, the main star. She's the main star on this film, Regina King. And it's just like she's the main one. Has Don Johnson in it.
Should I watch? Okay, I'm gonna watch. I'll watch the episode when we're done.
Watch episode 1, at least episode 1, and then get a feel for it, and then you can watch the rest if you want.
Well, truth is, if it's well done, then you're right. The first episode should suck me in. If it doesn't, then I'm not. I understand. I get it. So I'll give it a chance, even though it is superhero stuff.
I would. I think if you watch the movie, which it's definitely worth watching. I know it's
What
not like
platform is the movie on? Is it on Amazon?
it should be on Amazon. I'm not sure if it's free, but it's definitely worth a $3 rent or something like that. I think if you watch the movie first, it'll set you up for the series. Because if you're watching the series, yeah, you'll enjoy it, but you don't have that backdrop of the movie because it plays off the movie.
Okay.
It's like 30 something years after the movie, but it plays.
Oh,
off
okay,
it.
no, okay, then yeah, I understand. I'll look for the
Yeah.
movie, but text me that so I remember the name.
I'll text you. I'll text you.
Okay.
So I watched that over the weekend. And what else?
How much fights did you watch?
Yeah, that too. Fights on Saturday, so I watched the fights all day Saturday. That's how I spent my Saturday. And then Father's Day, we had like a little barbecue here, just the people that live here, nobody else.
No doubt.
Yeah. My wife. Did your wife get you anything?
No. Right? This has been going on for a long time. You know,
I know.
You'll understand in a few years that this. No,
I
but so next week is her.
Got an 18 bottle, 18 Glenlivet.
Really?
Yeah.
Not drinking right now, so
When you come over, I'll give you. You at least take a shot.
I would. You know, I went one time when I stood up in we stayed up in Estes Park at the Standard Hotel where Stephen King wrote The Shining, and there's the haunted room and the whole deal. Anyway, I was at that bar, you know, where the Shining thing. You remember?
Yeah.
And so I asked. I said, "Let me have." I had some expensive shots, or so I thought. And that was like $19 or $23. And then I pointed to this one bottle, and the shot was like $68. And I said, "No, that's good." But
what was it? What was the
I don't even know what it was. I thought it might have been like a certain type of Johnny Walker, but I can't say for sure.
Yeah.
But it was a $68 shot, and I thought, I don't know, man. I can get buzzed with a $5 shot. You know.
I gotta watch it. Let me see if I can pull up the name. I think it was a Billy Corben documentary. Oh, Screwball. Have you seen it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I recommend it. It's about the baseball steroid scandal, and then it covers it talks to some of the big suppliers over in Miami because that's where with A-Rod and everything like that. It's
okay, so this is after the Sosa and. Yeah. Okay, McGuire. Yeah,
it touches on that stuff because it gives you history on that. But this is more surrounds the A-Rod situation and the stuff that happened down in Miami or South Florida. But
who else was in there though? Who else was the players that were involved there?
Manny Ramirez.
Okay.
A-Rod was the biggest one. But they have like the main supplier on there, and they have like it's like this big racket, and then like it's so good. And then they do reenactments, and the reenactments are done by kids. So they have like it's so good. They'll have
text me that because I won't remember that. I like that.
It's on Netflix. That's on Netflix. I recommend that.
In college we took steroids, and I'm going to tell you what, it's just right on, man. It just changes. And I was taking such a small amount, but I was told to go to this doctor where all the football team went, and the doctor had a muscle and fitness in the waiting room. And then this
will bring back memories. Then this
really is from that time.
Yes.
And so this is like a small town outside of Springfield, Missouri, and so we went there, and then right across the street was the pharmacy. So we were buying steroids for $30, and I'm sure nowadays those are hundreds. And I mean, I don't think American manufacturers make steroids themselves anymore. I think they're brought in, or they're all probably from Europe and South America and probably Asia too. I would imagine.
This took place. The doctors associated with this thing was with the whole anti-aging boom.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is around that time.
HGH, testosterone boosters, even testosterone therapy hidden under testosterone therapy.
Yeah.
But we even within in my own life within a 6-week period or whatever, my bench press went from like 235, 240 to the 340s, and the squat went up staggering, and you weren't sleeping at night.
Yeah.
And we were also partying too on the sides, but it was just you didn't need to sleep. It's like the recovery was just, it's like your recovery is pressed down because of your body's carrying higher levels of nitrogen for protein synthesis. So if you're telling me that an idiot buying little pills saw this, and whenever you see people on roids, when you watch that Sammy Sosa and McGuire documentary, I mean, their forearms are like legs.
I know.
It's like, who was the MMA guy that got busted with steroids twice?
Twice?
There was one guy who was a big black guy. And I forget. And and I saw the picture of him, and I was like, well, obvious, because you see people like that walking around. You can live on,
Yeah.
8 whites and an apple a day, and you're not going to get that cut. And to me, we always looked at the shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've known 2 people in my life that have had natural shoulders, and
I would like to watch a fight with you, and then we can watch the whole at least the whole main card, and then you could. I'll make sure that there's some big guys on there, and you could tell me if you think that.
But no, they test these guys, don't they?
Yeah, they test them regularly. They test them quite often, especially in the UFC. Yeah.
Okay.
They're pretty strict on it.
Yeah. But I know that you can take water soluble and stay away from oil and injection base because it flushes cleaner.
Yeah.
But when we watch, even like Lance Armstrong, I mean, these guys, when you want to, like when Ben Johnson got busted running the 100 in the Olympics, all the rest of the guys got busted too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm sure when people want to win, they're going to win. I would think that there should be a super steroid division in every sport. It would be so popular.
They only maybe in the last 5 years started really, really strict testing. But before that, you knew guys were on stuff. Like everybody knew it was going around. And for the most part, you're okay with it, and unless it was like completely obvious, then it was like, hey, But I don't know.
Well, it does help.
A lot of people like to and they like to discredit a lot of the guys' careers from that time. But honestly, I didn't everybody was using it. It was pretty much a level playing field. And I think a lot of those guys are just skilled naturally anyway. So you can inject me with a bunch of steroids. I'm not going to beat so and so with I don't know how many years of training. It's just not going to happen. So
no, but the truth is, just from my personal experience, and to me, it was the recovery. Now, I was a young person, was going to recover, but I will say that when I herniated my disc a few years ago, I just wasn't getting better, and I did some Winstrol. I bought it at the gym, and it was to strengthen my back, and it was staggering. I did that one time, and then I did Anavar one time also, because it helped strengthen the muscles, and it was a big plus. And that and CBDs helped my back. And truth is,
have you taken anything recently? Are you still taking anything? No.
No. This was years ago.
This was years ago. Okay.
But the truth is, it was a great recommendation. Well, and
just because you do work out a lot and you work out hard, and you do a lot of physical activity, especially when you're gearing up to doing right now. Like I figured that, there's a lot of people, especially in your age range. Like let's take like a Joe Rogan or whatever, who's not a professional athlete or whatever, but has been physical for most of his life, is on a kind of like a regular thing of testosterone, I think.
So I went and got tested. Okay, about I don't know. Okay, when I was, what happened was I got tested a few years ago because I was going to use it. Thought this would be an awesome thing, but I know that there's a taper off of it. So in other words, they wear the patch and whatever. But I was tested, and at that time, I was within the parameters where it wasn't needed.
It wasn't needed. Yeah.
Not in, and this was in my early 50s.
Okay.
And this was before hurting my back, in fact.
Yeah.
And I was going to do it. So the other stuff, I just did 6-week programs. And yeah, my strength, in fact, I did one and actually dieted properly. And at 56, man, I had a full six-pack. I was like, I mean, probably the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
But it helped my back. That's what McGuire said in the documentaries, what he used it at first, because he did have some serious injuries over his back.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe I'll get tested again. But for me, I don't want to be big anymore. I'm trying to be more lean for mountains, because that's probably, or even in martial arts or anything, something more, you know, I just can't be. I weighed 205 about, I don't know, 4 weeks ago. So
is that heavy for you, or?
Yeah, well, for me, but because I have small bones, 205 is bigger for me than for some people, whatever. But anyway, trying to figure out what to do with the gym. I don't want to go back to LA Fitness.
Well, I mean, with the whole Corona spikes and, you know, them reconsidering opening stuff up like how like we would have. I don't know if gyms are necessarily going to be. I know they're open now, but for how long or under what conditions, I don't know. You know?
You're right, and plus the hours. So anyway, I'm looking at a couple different options, and it is what it is. So it's interesting though that definitely they said, okay, when Ben Johnson won the 100, he set the world record in the '88 Olympics. You know what? The day before, he was lifting so heavy that the Russian, you know, steroid kings of the weightlifters from the Russian team came over to watch him lift. That's how impressed they were.
Oh. The Russians know what they're doing when it comes to steroids, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, most communist countries know their steroids, and that's where the busts have been over the years. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
let's talk from steroids. Let's talk to Mel Brooks, who was
a steroid comedian, and definitely that it's funny. You know, his name. He was born Melvin Kaminsky in Brooklyn, New York, and he changed his name when he was 14. But he has a pretty. It's funny you talked about him, because we watched Young Frankenstein. I saw Young Frankenstein at the theater. Mel Brooks, because I'm old, his background goes back. I mean, he wrote for Sid Caesar, a famous comedian from the 50s, Show of Shows. Yeah. Now, the writers on that were Carl Reiner, Woody Allen, Neil Simon, the playwright, and him. So that's on a different level. He helped write Get Smart, the original show with Buck Henry. And his movies, do they fit? There's always going to be questions, do they fit? But he won Oscar, Emmys, and 3 Tonys. Mm-hmm. So when you win the Tonys, in my eyes, you go up to a whole other level. Yeah. And when you can win Tonys on a play about Hitler, then man, you really have done something weird. So anyway, growing up, Blazing Saddles was a big part of our life, and then Young Frankenstein, and my parents took us to see High Anxiety, and I mean, the guy is incredible. His wife is Anne Bancroft. Do you know who she is? The actress?
I do know who she is, yes. I mean, look at her.
She also, Tonys, like 3 or 4 Tonys, Oscars, Emmys, and you would think the total opposite of Mel Brooks in marriage. And she died in 2005, but they got married in 94.
Yeah.
And such a great dramatic actress. And this guy, his stuff, did you see Spaceballs? About Star Wars? And he makes fun of everything. And and on a side note, I shook his hand one time at the Pacific Resident Theater in Venice. Yeah. Because I was the chauffeur for this lady who was very high up in an entertainment agency.
Yeah.
And so they went to this play, and then she brought me over. She also made me shake Christopher Walken's hand one time. And but anyway, it's
And
just
those his wife Anne Bancroft. She was the lady in The Graduate, huh? The one
Dustin
seducing the one seducing Dustin Hoffman. Yeah.
which was written by Buck Henry. So it's all kind of connected there.
It's all connected, yeah.
That's probably the movie that put Dustin Hoffman on the
for sure.
track. I would have majored. I mean, he was doing theater, and he had done some movies, but that was the one that made it. And Simon and Garfunkel, famous music soundtrack in that movie. So it's a good thing. What is your favorite Mel Brooks movie?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. I think the two that I grew up with were Spaceballs and Robin Hood Men in Tights. Men in Tights came out in '93, with Spaceballs '87. I think I saw Robin Hood Men in Tights first, and then I watched Spaceballs. I've seen Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, I've even seen The Producers, but I would say Robin Hood Men in Tights, for me, I just watched it again over the weekend, still holds up. I was just cracking up. My son, who was like a year and a half, was, the witch, when she's trying to like get a hold of the sheriff of Rottingham. He's like, every time the witch was on there, he was just like, just like laughing. I don't know what, he's just everything she did was just like he was cracking up with.
Well, you ought to keep those scenes and use them again for him.
he loved part. He was in and out of the movie. He was watching it in here and there. And Tracy Ullman, who played the witch in that movie. But that was my first exposure to Mel Brooks, was that movie.
Well, I go back to obviously a lot.
Dave Chappelle on that one.
Which one?
Young Dave Chappelle was in that movie.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
this is '93. He was.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he was just starting, I think, breaking out into the comedy scene. He was a young guy around that time. He started in the comedy clubs like in his teenage years, right? And he was like 16, 17 or something like that. The Sheriff of Rottingham was one of my favorites in the movie. Roger Rees, I think that's the actor's name. Maid Marian was Amy Yazbek, who was, I think she was married to, what's his name? From Three's Company. Wasn't that his wife?
Ritter?
John Ritter. I think she was John Ritter's wife.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were married for a little bit.
I think they have two kids that are in this show. Is that one girl was in Breaking Bad, wasn't it? The daughter?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. She's also on a show. I don't know much of her work, but I didn't know that. So,
yeah.
But it's funny. He uses a lot of same people.
He does.
In his movies, and it's funny how he does that. I was exposed going back when I was 12 years old and saw Young Frankenstein at the theater. And we had seen Blazing Saddles years before on TV, and it was social commentary. And but I love Young Frankenstein, and I watched it again last night. And Gene Wilder's eyes, man, that guy's a good actor.
He's so good. I watch my son's favorite movie right now is Willy Wonka.
Oh yeah,
so he's probably watching it right now. Actually. Willy Wonka is like on at my house all the time, and honestly, he's
an incredible guy, man.
His timing, his every scene, he just steals, and he just his timing, his wit. His
eyes are so big,
eyes,
and
oh man. I just love him in that movie.
Pretty interesting. He took the role in Blazing Saddles if Mel Brooks agreed to help him write his idea of Young Frankenstein and do the movie.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is you go back to some like History of the World or silent movie. I mean, he was so well respected by the biggest stars of the day. Even in Young Frankenstein, you got Gene Hackman, who won the Oscar 2 years earlier for French Connection, playing this little piece of the role.
Yeah.
And Madeline Kahn,
Peter Boyle.
Nominated. You know that Peter Boyle was best man for John Lennon?
No, I didn't know that.
And was the one that talked him into doing the final album, Double Fantasy, before he was killed. So, but yeah. Then the dirty kind of underneath jokes in Mel Brooks stuff, like with the monster Peter Boyle and the Frankenschlagen or whatever. And then she says at the end, "Well, he got your brains. What did you get?" Anyway, Madeline Kahn, who plays his wife, he's into that slapstick humor. Like even when they're testing the guy and kicking him in the groin, the old guy, let's give him an extra buck. But no, you know what? It's nice to put on stuff that's funny. Yeah. And Mel Brooks just writes like a maniac. Oh, one other thing I did see, I'll make a side note, was I did watch. Have you seen this series? And I don't want to take it away, but because Mel Brooks is a director, we'll bring it up. It's called The Director's Chair. It's on El Rey. It's Robert Rodriguez, from El Mariachi. Yeah. He interviews directors. And I've seen Tarantino, and Coppola was on this last week. And do you know that movie with the Wes Anderson movie about the school? I can't think of the name of it offhand. Bill Murray's in it. Bill Murray's like the rich drunk guy. I don't know, my brain's not working. It's terrible. I should not be like
it. It's not Life Aquatic, no, right?
No, it's not the Life Aquatic. It's the one before. Man, my brain is just dead today. So anyway, he said the character was off of him, and the character who played him is Talia Shire's son, or also his nephew. So it was kind of an interesting. Nicolas Cage is also related to this whole family. But the series is worth watching because you really realize in the greatest moments in film, everything is almost luck and magic.
Yeah.
And whether it was Tarantino talking about a shot, or Scorsese, or Coppola, it's when it all comes together, that's why we talk about it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
there's another. I think it's Vanity Fair on YouTube. I think I send you a couple of links before. I think it might be Vanity Fair. They have a series on YouTube where they would gather like actors or that kind of play roles in a certain genre, maybe a lot of drama, directors. They had Scorsese on right after he was talking about the whole Marvel movie type thing. They had him.
Oh yeah.
They had it was before the Oscars. I think most of them had been nominated, or I think all the directors from the nominated films of 2020, and so there was 2019 when they did this, and then it was like a round table. It was a great. I'll send you a link. It's really cool. Some of those are just really fun to watch.
It's not okay. I understand what he says. To me, when I see something like anything in the Marvel, like when I see it first, I'm on board. Okay, Iron Man, Deadpool, even Black Panther. I'm not going to see the next one. I don't care anymore. Yeah. Then I know you're making money. You know what I mean? So, and even if it's a continuation of the story, it's just getting. And the problem with it's a safe bet for the studios because they can sell it internationally. It's like Charles Bronson in the 70s.
Yeah.
Death Wish guy. He was the biggest star in the world. Well, and it doesn't have a lot of dialogue. No. You can watch the video and watch the movie and understand the story, which is great filmmaking. And, there's stuff that's great, but after the second one, and even in sequels and regular movies for me, I'm not, Jaws 3, no.
Yeah.
I didn't, how did the shark survive Jaws 1? I saw it get blown up. You know what I mean? So, that being said, there's creative parts, but it also becomes safe.
Yeah.
We're not going to see the movies that I saw growing up because studios aren't going to make those movies. And when people don't have the money to make, when you see 20 producers at the end of a film who gave $1 million and all want to be creative and they're not creative, you're not going to see a strong work.
Well, especially now with the whole, the culture the way it is right now in entertainment, it's like who's willing to take chances, who's willing to let people just be free and be funny without being attempting to hurt people or hurt people's feelings or whatever. Just like, even if you take a movie like Superbad, which was done not that long ago, even that movie probably would have a lot of trouble getting made at this time. It came out at the right time, and I think some of the subject matter and, you have...
You know what, I got to tell you, and I can't go with specifics on it, but I'll tell you, I did love that movie. Yeah. I know that movie with Seth Rogen wrote it such a long time ago that he was supposed to be starring in it as Jonah Hill, but so I think it's a great movie, and you know, my high school was party wild time, so I guess maybe it's only nostalgic feel. But
I went to a premiere of that. I went to like a small little premiere over at Comic-Con a month or two before the movie came out in the small theater in San Diego with the cast. And this was before anybody, before Jonah Hill was Jonah Hill. And I was actually able to get some of the signatures. I was like, moving to my new house, I saw the signatures I have on like some of the pamphlets I have.
McLovin. I mean, that's just it. That's the whole movie.
And I think a lot of those movies, especially a lot of these movie like that, you can select and how some of the dirty humor, like the little the undertone kind of like little digs here and there, or just like it's versus
here's the deal. And this is how I look at it, I don't want anyone's feelings to be hurt, but I'll tell you what's going to come out of this time is some of the greatest subliminal work in the history of the world. And it's just going to be, and what we see on TV is not our groups. Yeah. Like I said, like I always tell someone, I look on TV and all I see are assholes. It doesn't matter what station I turn on, news, whatever. I don't care anymore. But when I hit the road and I'm driving out in Utah, or I'm driving up Northern California, or if I'm in Chicago, I never meet any of these people. All I meet are cool people. So I think that
if you turn off the TV, most of the stuff going on, it doesn't. People in their daily lives don't even know.
People want to know, what am I having for dinner tonight, man? Can I get to the gym? Can I pay those bills?
Yeah, when are we hanging out? Type of like, what are we eating? When are we going to go see that movie?
We're not hanging out at your house for a while.
Yeah,
but anyway,
come on.
for 14 more days.
If you take a shot of the Glenlivet, it'll cure a lot of that.
It's funny because I told my wife that like 3 months ago. I myself really don't drink beer or wine or whatever, but I like hard liquor. But the truth is as kids, when we had sore throats, we would gargle with salt water and we would get a shot of the brandy. So it's obvious if hand cleaner is cleaning your hands, and the esophageal tubes and the sinuses is where the COVID breeds. This is that's what they say. Then a gargling, what you're doing is medicinal.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm doing.
You should go into business.
Yes.
Start a distillery. Have you ever been over to England or anything?
Oh no, I wish. I want to.
I'd like to go up. I had a friend that went to a distillery tour in Scotland. It went all up, and
that'd be cool.
He said it was very, very cool, and I would like to go. So we talk. Okay, let's end with this. We love Mel Brooks. Watch his movies. They actually have incredible social commentary. Comedically, that really says something right. Yeah. And even in Young Frankenstein, there was something that came up about the different things, and definitely worth watching.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks is a brilliant, and it just goes to show you. Look where he started. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're hanging out with Neil Simon, the playwright, I think that pretty much. And you create shows, and how many thousands of pages has Mel Brooks written?
Yeah, this is the guy's a machine.
You know who Siskel and Ebert is?
Yeah,
from the Chicago Sun-Times. They put him number one as the greatest comedic director of all time.
Yeah.
And Young Frankenstein made $86 million at the box office in 1974, domestic.
Yeah.
It didn't cost a lot to make. You know what I'm saying? So he did some good things. We highly recommend some of his movies. It's a great break from life. And even the History of the World Part 1, by the way, if you have a chance to go back, you want to see how the world should have been. Some people might find it a little blasphemous in certain areas, but definitely you'll find out the true colors of the Romans. So definitely worth watching. And good stuff.
And he is still alive and cooking like lately. Yeah, and he was doing like one man kind of like shows, kind of like I don't know what it consisted of, but he was doing it as early as like last year, like doing some shows over at like Microsoft Theater and stuff like that. Like it's just him talking to the crowd.
Iconic. Mm-hmm. Like I said, to me, the Tony when you win Broadway and you win the Tony, that to me is almost bigger than an Oscar for me. Now, it wasn't years ago, but as my wife has molded my taste, brought me out of the gutter a little bit, and moved me over. I mean, when you win all three, and I always go back to Bob Fosse because he beat, and this was in the interview with Coppola. Rodriguez says, "So what did you think about Fosse beating you as director?" He said, "A dancer beats the mob." So anyway, just kind of an interesting story, but great talent,
and just a testament to for Mel Brooks, a testament to Jewish Americans in Hollywood, and just the humor that they bring, man. It's just the guy, like it's so crazy, man, how talented.
Wanted to keep. I mean, Paul Newman's in his movies uncredited. You know what I'm saying? So people just love the guy. And the truth is, all I've ever heard out of him is he seems like a really fun. I mean, I only shook his hand for 1 second. I don't know anything, but that he would shake my hand. I'm just a driver. You know what I mean? Just like it's just class act and a great story. And man, we were talking about New York. Well, he came from New York back in the old days when it was Brooklyn. When Brooklyn was Brooklyn, and you're right. He had a Jewish background, Polish, so that forced him right off the start, the Polish part. So to be able to even to work through being Polish all these years,
is he Polish and Jewish, or is he? Yeah. What is he? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay, nice. I didn't know that. Yeah.
He was born in Brooklyn. I don't know anything about his parents, but he did take some college. Oh, and his job in World War II was dismantling bombs in Europe and unblown up ordnance.
That's a great game.
And I always read. That's my favorite part of us talking is I spend a little bit of time reading up. But he also was a psychology major in college, which seems as a psycho guy, and he seems like a psycho guy. In fact, Gene Wilder said, "I'll do Young Frankenstein if you're not in it," to Mel Brooks, because he
always inserts himself in the films.
And he breaks the fourth wall. Yeah. He always does the theater thing by looking out and talking to the audience. So he said, "I won't be in it if you're in it." But to everyone out there, check out some of his movies. I think you'll enjoy them. I think Young Frankenstein is my favorite. Men in Tights is yours, which is kind of weird, but anyway. So Men in Tights, anyway, no humor there, but. Anyway, other than that
musical number they have in the movie, we're men.
Yeah,
that's such a great one. Yeah.
Well, such a good movie. Spaceballs with Rick Moranis with the helmet, and it keeps muffling him.
If you like, or when he's like breathing heavy, he's like, and he lifts up the thing. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't breathe in this."
Just.
He flies.
John Candy, the Wookiee, right?
Yeah. They hit the brakes and he goes flying through the air and it crashes into the screen and all that. Yeah, it's great.
It's definitely. Listen, slapstick humor has its place. It's maybe people think the lowest form, but sometimes it's very universal in making people laugh.
Yeah. All right.
Well, so
great catching up with you. Yeah, we'll get back to it next week. Yeah. Any party words?
Let's do some horror stuff next week.
Big horror guy, but shade some good. But yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do some horror movies. Yeah.
Pick your favorite, pick the one. We'll talk about the genre. We should really do a little bit of a historical role on it because one of the complaints about Young Frankenstein is when Madeline Kahn's hair's in the big, remember, it's all back. They said it wrecked every Frankenstein movie from all the former ones. They said no one could ever look at even any old Frankenstein movie seriously anymore because of Madeline Kahn's hair. So we'll do some history, we'll do some genre, and then pick out the one movie that does creep you out, and I'll pick out the one and why it does.
Let's do it, yeah.
Whatever we're standard watching and everything.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Have a good day, sir.
I'll catch up with you later. Take care. Come over anytime. I'll get you some COVID, and then we'll...
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
All right. Take care.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too. All right, bye.